What would you do if you saw 3 police officers secretly following an 8-year-old girl on her way home from school? Sounds strange, right? You'd probably think the worst, that something bad is about to happen. But what happened next left everyone who witnessed it completely shocked. At first glance, it seemed like the cops were tracking her for some serious reason. Their serious faces, the way they kept their distance. It all added to the tension. Neighbors peeked through their windows whispering, wondering why officers would be following such a young child. But here's the twist. You won't believe why they were really there. The truth behind their actions will change the way you look at this story entirely. Stick around until the end, because this isn't just about 3 cops and a little girl. It's about a lesson that will stay with you long after you hear it. Comment below where you're watching from, and let's get into this unbelievable story. In a quiet, suburban neighborhood, the kind where kids rode bikes and neighbors exchanged friendly waves, something felt different that day. Meet Lila, an 8-year-old girl with a bright smile, her backpack bouncing as she walked home from school. She was carefree, humming her favorite tune, completely unaware that 3 police officers were following her from a distance. The officers, Officer Daniels, Officer Cruz, and Officer Taylor, weren't chasing her, but they kept a close watch, staying just far enough back to avoid alarming her. Their serious expressions stood out in the calm, peaceful setting. Neighbors began to notice. Mrs. Jenkins peeked from her porch, squinting. Mr. Patel paused behind his shop window, whispering, "Why are the cops following that little girl?" The whispers grew louder, filled with curiosity and concern. But Lila didn't seem scared. She glanced over her shoulder a few times but kept walking, occasionally stopping to pick a dandelion or hop over sidewalk cracks. She was just being a kid, completely unaware of the tension building around her. As Lila reached her front door, she hesitated, her small hand resting on the doorknob. The officers finally approached, their footsteps now unmistakable behind her. She froze. Neighbors held their breath, peeking from windows, phones in hand, ready to capture what they thought could be something serious. And just as Lila was about to step inside, one officer gently called out her name. What happened next? No one was ready for it. Lila froze as she heard her name called. Her small hand stayed on the doorknob, her fingers trembling slightly. She slowly turned around, her wide eyes meeting the serious faces of the 3 officers. The street felt eerily quiet now, with neighbors peeking through blinds, their curiosity growing with every second. Officer Daniels, the one who had spoken, took a cautious step forward. His voice softened, but his face remained tense. "Lila, we need to talk to you. It's important." Lila's heart raced. She wasn't sure why these officers were interested in her. She hadn't done anything wrong. She looked around, as if searching for someone who might explain what was happening. Her mother wasn't home yet. She was alone. The officers moved closer, maintaining a respectful distance. Officer Cruz added gently, "Don't be scared. You're not in trouble." But those words didn't ease the tension. In fact, it made the neighbors even more suspicious. If she's not in trouble, then why are the cops following her? Lila hesitated, then whispered, What did I do?" Officer Taylor crouched down to her level, his expression softening. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. But we think you might have seen something today that could help us." Lila's brows furrowed. Help them? She tried to think back. What could she have possibly seen? The officers exchanged glances, sensing her confusion. Officer Daniels spoke again. "Earlier today, near the park, did you see anything unusual? Maybe someone acting strange? A car you didn't recognize?" Lila thought hard. She had passed the park on her way home like she always did. She'd seen people, cars, But nothing seemed out of place at the time. Then, her eyes widened slightly as a memory flashed in her mind. "There was a red car," she said slowly. "It was parked by the playground. The man inside kept looking around, but he didn't get out." The officers leaned in, their interest piqued. Officer Cruz asked, "Did you see the man's face?" Lila nodded. A little. He had a hat pulled low, but he was watching the kids. The officers exchanged tense glances. That matched the description they'd received earlier. A suspect involved in a nearby case. But what Lila didn't know was that the suspect was connected to a recent string of child abductions in the area. They'd been searching for days with no luck, until now. Officer Daniels smiled gently. "You're very brave, Lila. The man you saw is someone we've been looking for. We followed you because we think he might have noticed you too." Lila's eyes grew even wider. "He saw me?" "Yes," Officer Taylor confirmed softly. "That's why we were here, to make sure you got home safely." The weight of their words settled over her like a blanket. The fear crept in slowly, realizing she'd been closer to danger than she knew. Meanwhile, the neighbors watching from their windows were now filled with a different kind of shock. Their assumptions about the situation had been wrong. The officers weren't there to intimidate or arrest. They were protecting her. Officer Daniels gently placed a reassuring hand on Lila's shoulder. "You're safe now, but we need your help. Can you remember anything else about the car or the man?" Lila nodded slowly, describing everything she could recall. The color of the car, a dent near the back door, the man's jacket. Her memory, though fragmented, provided crucial details. The officers thanked her, their expressions lighter now, but still cautious. Officer Cruz added, "Your information could help us catch him. You did something very important today." Lila managed a small smile, her fear replaced by a sense of pride. She hadn't realized it, but she had helped. As the officers prepared to leave, Officer Taylor turned back. "Thank you, Lila. You're braver than you know." The neighbors stepped out of their homes, their faces a mix of guilt and awe. They had jumped to conclusions, assuming the worst about the officers without knowing the full story. And as Lila waved goodbye to the officers, she realized that sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear uniforms, and sometimes they're just little girls who notice the small details. The next day, Lila woke up feeling different. She wasn't just the girl who walked home from school anymore. She was the girl who had helped the police. But little did she know, her part in this story wasn't over yet. Later that afternoon, there was a knock on the door. Lila's mom answered, and standing there were Officers Daniels, Cruz, and Taylor again. But this time, they weren't alone. They had a serious look in their eyes, and it wasn't just a friendly follow-up. "Ma'am," Officer Daniels began, "we need to speak with Lila." Her mom's face filled with concern. "Is something wrong?" Officer Cruz stepped forward. "We believe the man Lila saw might have been following her." Lila, overhearing the conversation, felt a chill run down her spine. The man had seen her. And now, he might know where she lived. The officers explained that they'd tracked down the red car based on Lila's description. It had been spotted near another neighborhood where a child had recently gone missing. But here's the twist. The man was still out there, and they believed he was keeping an eye on Lila, thinking she might recognize him. The officers needed Lila's help one more time. "We have a plan," Officer Taylor said gently, kneeling down to her level. "But we can't do it without you." Lila's heart raced. She was scared, but something inside her, bravery she didn't know she had, made her nod. The plan was simple. Lila would walk her usual route home from school, but this time the officers would be closer, watching every move. They hoped the man would show up, thinking she was alone. And that's when they'd catch him. The next day, Lila followed the plan. She walked with her backpack, bouncing like always, trying to act normal even though her heart was pounding. Every shadow felt bigger, every sound louder. Then she saw it. The red car parked near the park, just like before. Her pulse quickened, but she kept walking, pretending not to notice. She could feel the man's eyes on her just like the last time. But this time, she wasn't alone. The officers were hidden nearby, watching closely. As Lila passed the car, the man started his engine. He slowly pulled out, creeping along the street, following her again. This was the moment they'd been waiting for. Lila reached the spot they had planned, a small corner where the officers had set up a hidden watch. She gave a quick glance, the signal they'd agreed on. That's when everything happened fast. The red car sped up slightly, just enough to make it clear he wasn't just passing by. But before he could get any closer, the officers sprang into action. Their unmarked car blocked his path, sirens suddenly blaring, breaking the eerie silence. The man tried to escape, hitting the gas, but there was nowhere to go. Officer Daniels and Officer Cruz approached with their weapons drawn, shouting commands. The man froze, realizing he'd been caught. It was over in seconds. They arrested him right there, finding evidence in his car that linked him to the missing children cases they'd been investigating. Lila's brave observation had helped catch a dangerous criminal. As the man was taken away, Lila stood quietly, watching. She wasn't scared anymore. She felt something else, pride. She had helped stop someone who could have hurt others. The officers walked over, smiles on their faces this time. "You were amazing, Lila," Officer Taylor said. "You helped save lives." Her mom hugged her tightly, tears in her eyes, not from fear, but from relief and pride. The news spread quickly. Lila's story became a symbol of bravery, but she didn't care about the attention. For her, it was simple. She just noticed something, and she did the right thing. And sometimes, that's all it takes to be a hero. Just when everyone thought the story had come to an end with the man's arrest, an unexpected twist unfolded, one that no one saw coming. After the police took the man into custody, they began searching his car for more evidence. What they found left even the most experienced officers speechless. Hidden beneath the passenger seat was a small, worn-out notebook filled with notes, maps, and photographs. Some of those photos were of random parks, playgrounds, and children. But then, there was one picture that sent chills down Officer Daniels' spine. It was a photo of Lila. The picture wasn't recent. It was taken weeks before the day she noticed the red car near the park. This wasn't some random encounter. The man had been watching her for a while. Lila hadn't just been lucky that day. She had unknowingly been a target. When the officers shared this information with Lila's mom, she broke down in tears. The idea that her daughter had been followed for weeks without them knowing was terrifying. But here's where it gets even more shocking. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered that the man wasn't working alone. He was part of a larger group involved in similar crimes across different neighborhoods. Lila's sharp memory and bravery didn't just help catch one man, it helped uncover an entire operation. The police had been struggling for months to find leads on this case. They had files, suspects, and dead ends, but nothing concrete. Until Lila. Her simple observation, the red car, the man's strange behavior, was the missing piece they needed. Without her noticing those small details, the group might have continued their activities unnoticed. But the biggest revelation was yet to come. During the investigation, the man confessed something unexpected. He admitted that the reason he had been watching Lila wasn't just random. He had seen her weeks ago when she had helped a lost child find their way back to their parent at the park. In that brief moment, she had caught his attention, not because she did anything wrong, but because she showed kindness. That simple act of helping someone had made her stand out. It was chilling to realize that something as innocent as helping another person could attract the attention of someone with bad intentions. But it also highlighted the importance of awareness. Lila had paid attention to her surroundings, and that awareness saved not just herself but potentially many others. The police praised her as a hero, not just for her courage, but for her sharp instincts. Lila, however, didn't see herself as a hero. She was just a kid who noticed something that didn't feel right. This twist changed everything for the community. It was a wake-up call, not to live in fear, but to be more aware, to trust your instincts, and to speak up when something feels off. Lila's bravery had started as a simple walk home from school, but it ended with her helping to dismantle a dangerous network, teaching everyone a powerful lesson. Sometimes, the smallest observations can make the biggest difference. After the shocking revelations, Lila's life changed in ways she could never have imagined. She was no longer just the little girl who walked home from school. She was now seen as the brave child who helped uncover a dangerous criminal network. But for Lila, it wasn't about being a hero. She was just a girl who paid attention, who trusted her instincts, and who spoke up when something felt wrong. The community that had once whispered in curiosity when they saw the police following her was now buzzing with admiration and pride. Lila's bravery had not only helped catch a dangerous man, but had also made everyone realize how important it is to be aware of your surroundings. Her school honored her with a small ceremony. The principal spoke about her courage. The local news covered her story, and neighbors who once peered through curtains now greeted her with warm smiles and words of praise. But through it all, Lila remained humble. She didn't wear a cape or have superpowers. She simply noticed something strange and did the right thing. For her mom, it was a bittersweet feeling. The fear of what could have happened lingered, but the pride in her daughter's bravery outweighed it. She realized how easy it is to overlook the small signs in our busy lives. This experience was a lesson not just for Lila, but for everyone. As for the officers, Daniels, Cruz, and Taylor, they continued their work with a renewed sense of purpose. They often visited Lila, checking in not because she needed protection anymore, but because they'd formed a bond. They'd seen firsthand how even the smallest voices can make the biggest impact. The neighborhood changed too. People became more vigilant, not out of fear, but out of awareness. Parents talked to their kids about trusting their instincts, about speaking up if something felt wrong. Lila's story was a reminder that you don't have to be an adult to make a difference. But beyond the recognition and praise, there was a deeper lesson that stuck with Lila, and with everyone who heard her story. It wasn't just about catching a bad guy. It was about the power of paying attention, the importance of trusting your gut, and the courage to speak up, even when it's scary. Sometimes, the world teaches us lessons in the most unexpected ways. Lila's story wasn't just about fear or danger. It was about hope, resilience, and the idea that even in the scariest moments, a simple act of awareness can change everything. She didn't set out to be a hero. She just noticed something, and that was enough. So, the next time you're walking down the street, remember Lila. Look around. Trust your instincts, because you never know when a small observation could make a big difference. In the end, Lila went back to her routine, walking home from school, humming her favorite songs. But now, she walked with a little more confidence, knowing that even the smallest person can make the biggest impact. And that's a lesson we can all carry with us. And that's the incredible story of how an 8-year-old girl's sharp instincts and simple observations helped stop something far bigger than she could have ever imagined. Lila wasn't a superhero with special powers. She was just a kid who paid attention, trusted her gut, and spoke up when something didn't feel right. Her story isn't just about bravery. It's about awareness. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest details, the things we overlook, can be the most important. Lila's courage teaches us that you don't have to be an adult to make a difference. You just have to be observant. Speak up and never underestimate the power of trusting your instincts. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment where you trusted your gut and it made a difference? Or maybe you've noticed something small that turned out to be important. Share your stories in the comments below. And if Lila's story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of courage, kindness, and paying attention to the world around us. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the smallest actions can have the biggest impact.